Raymond Keller knew something was wrong before he reached Evelyn's grave. His folding cemetery chair was not where he always left it, tucked beside the low stone marker under the maple tree. It had been pushed near the walkway, folded flat, with a paper tag tied around one leg. Raymond stopped with the carnations still in his hand. For 6 years, every Sunday afternoon, he had opened that chair in the same patch of shade. He never made a show of it. He just sat there, talked a little, listened more, and then locked the chair back against the stone border before he went home. But now someone had moved it. The tag fluttered in the light wind. Transfer. Lot 18B. Raymond read it once, then again, because the words made no sense together. Lot 18B was not a storage number. It was not a maintenance code. It was his plot. He turned slowly toward the open stretch of grass beside Evelyn's headstone. A temporary white marker stood there now. It had been pressed into the ground where Raymond's name was supposed to go someday, where he had chosen to be placed when his time came. But the name on that marker belonged to another family. Raymond's fingers tightened around the flower stems until one of them bent. A young groundskeeper near the service cart noticed him staring and looked away too quickly. That was when Raymond felt the first cold pull in his chest. He picked up the folding chair with one hand and walked toward the cemetery office with the tag still tied to it. Inside, the office smelled like printer paper and floor wax. A woman behind the counter looked up from her computer and gave him a careful smile. "Can I help you, sir?" Raymond set the chair beside the counter and placed the tag in front of her. "My name is Raymond Keller," he said. "My wife is in lot 18A. I need to know why there's another family's marker on 18B. The woman's smile faded. She typed his name, checked the screen, then glanced toward a beige folder beside her keyboard. "Mesher Keller," she said, lowering her voice. "That plot was transferred 3 weeks ago." Raymond heard the office clock tick once behind her. "Transferred by who?" The clerk did not answer right away. She looked down at the folder again, then back at Raymond with a kind of worry that told him the answer was already in front of her. The clerk opened the beige folder but kept one hand resting on the top page, as if she was not sure Raymond should see it yet. "Mr. Keller," she said, "the transfer was requested by Karen Keller." Raymond did not move. "My daughter?" The clerk nodded once. "She's listed as the family contact." Raymond looked through the office window toward the rows of stones outside. His chair was still leaning beside the counter, the paper tag hanging from its leg like a receipt for something he had never sold. The front door opened behind him. "Dad!" Karen Keller came in, carrying her purse tight under one arm. She looked more tired than angry, but her eyes went straight to the folder. "I told them I'd handle this," she said. Raymond turned slowly. "Handle what?" Karen gave the clerk a quick, embarrassed smile, the kind people give when an older parent says something too loudly in public. "The cemetery sent that maintenance notice," Karen said. "The fees are going up again. You've got medical bills. And after your hospital scare, you said yourself you didn't want us spending money on arrangements." I said, "Don't make a fuss over me," Raymond said. "I didn't say sell my plot." Karen lowered her voice. "Dad, please. This is exactly why I handled it. You get emotional and stop thinking clearly." The words landed harder than the marker in the grass. Raymond looked at his daughter, trying to find grief in her face, or fear, or anything that would make this feel less like being erased. Karen just reached toward the folder. The clerk pulled it back slightly. "Messrs. Keller, I do have the transfer form here." Karen stiffened. "It was approved. It was processed," the clerk said carefully. "That's not always the same thing." For the first time, Karen did not answer right away. Raymond saw the top page when the clerk turned it toward him. Karen's signature sat near the bottom, clean and certain, under a line that said the change had been discussed with the family. Raymond tapped that line with one finger. "Not with me." Karen looked away. The office went quiet except for the hum of the printer behind the counter. Raymond did not raise his voice. He did not accuse her. He only pushed the transfer form back toward the clerk. "Show me the original contract." The clerk looked at Raymond for a moment, then down at the transfer form. "My name is Martha Bell," she said. "Give me a minute." Karen crossed her arms. "Martha, I don't want to make this harder than it has to be." The form went through. Martha did not argue. She stepped away from the counter, unlocked a gray file cabinet behind her desk, and slid open a drawer marked Pre-Need Records, 1980. 1990. Raymond watched her fingers move through the folders. Karen let out a quiet breath. "Dad, this is just old paperwork." Raymond kept his eyes on the cabinet. "Then it won't hurt to look at it." Martha pulled a brown folder from the back of the drawer. The edges were soft from age, and a faded label on the tab read Keller. Lot 18A, 18B. Raymond saw his own last name in blue ink and felt something steady under his ribs. Martha laid the folder on the counter and opened it with care. Inside were carbon copies, a yellowed receipt sheet, and a contract stapled at the corner. "This is the original pre-need burial contract," Martha said. "Purchased through Maple Grove in 1986. Karen glanced at the page. "That doesn't change anything. Families update arrangements all the time." "They do," Martha said, "but the update has to match the original file." Raymond looked at the form in front of her. The old paper had his name typed near the top, the lot numbers printed cleanly beneath it, and a row of stamped initials in the margin. Martha compared it to Karen's recent transfer form, line by line. Her expression changed before she said anything. "What is it?" Raymond asked. Martha did not look at Karen. She slid the new transfer form to the left and the old contract to the right. "This transfer lists Lot 18B as individually assignable," she said. "But the original contract doesn't describe it that way." Karen's voice sharpened. "Meaning what?" Martha turned one page, then another. Her finger stopped halfway down the old contract. Raymond leaned closer. Martha's mouth tightened, and for the first time since he walked into the office, she looked genuinely uncertain. "There's another signature here," she said. Raymond stared at the second signature like it had been hiding in plain sight for nearly 40 years. The ink was faded, but the name was still clear enough to read. Evelyn Keller. Karen let out a short breath. "That was Mom's signature. So what? She's gone." Martha did not answer quickly. She adjusted her glasses and read the paragraph above the signature lines twice. "It may matter," she said. Karen's face tightened. "May matter how?" Martha turned the contract toward Raymond, careful not to slide it too far across the counter. This wasn't filed as a simple single-owner plot purchase. It was a paired pre-need arrangement. Raymond looked at the words, but they blurred at the edges. "All I know," he said, "is I chose 18B. And this says the arrangement involved both 18A and 18B together," Martha said. "That doesn't automatically tell me the legal answer, but it does mean I can't treat Karen's transfer as routine." Karen looked toward the office door, then back at Martha. "The transfer already went through." "You said that." "I said it was processed," Martha replied. "Now I'm seeing something in the original file that should have been reviewed first." That was the micro payoff Raymond needed. For the first time all morning, someone had said the problem out loud. Karen reached for the contract. "This is old. Dad doesn't even remember half the things he signed back then." Raymond's hand came down over the edge of the folder before she touched it. "I remember choosing that plot," he said. The room went still. Martha gently pulled the folder back. "I'm going to place a note on this account until the contract language is reviewed." Karen's voice dropped. "You're holding it because of an old signature?" "I'm holding it because the old file and the new form don't tell the same story." Raymond looked from Karen to the contract. Evelyn's signature had opened the door, but it had not answered the question that now sat between all three of them. If the cemetery file showed this was never a simple transfer, why had Karen made it sound like Raymond had already agreed? Karen followed Raymond out of the cemetery office, but she did not look like someone who had been caught. She looked scared. By the walkway, The small folding chair leaned against Raymond's leg, still carrying the transfer tag. Karen pointed at it like the tag itself could explain everything. "You got the maintenance notice," she said. "You left it on the kitchen table for 2 weeks." Raymond looked at her. "A notice is not permission." Karen pressed her lips together. "You were behind on the cardiology bill." The cemetery said there might be a resale credit. "And when you were in the hospital, you told me not to let anyone waste money when the time came." "I remember saying that." "Then why are you acting like I invented it?" she asked. Emily had just pulled into the cemetery lot. She got out of her car slowly, already sensing the wrongness in their faces. "Mom?" she said. "Grandpa?" Karen turned toward her daughter too quickly. "Emily, please tell him this makes sense." Cremation is simpler. It's cheaper. It doesn't leave you with all this someday. Emily looked at Raymond's chair, then at the tag tied to it. "Why is Grandpa's chair tagged?" Karen's answer came half a second late. "Because the cemetery was updating the lot." Raymond's eyes stayed on Karen. "Updating is not selling." Karen flinched at the word. For a moment, her anger slipped, and something more tired showed through. "I handled your bills when Mom got sick. I handled the insurance calls. I handled the forms you wouldn't open. I thought I was doing what I always do." That was the first thing she had said that sounded true. Raymond's grip loosened on the chair, but then Karen added, "You would have fought me no matter how I asked." The air changed. Emily looked from her mother to her grandfather. "Did you ask him?" Karen did not answer. Raymond lowered his eyes to the paper tag again. Lot 18B transfer. A decision made around him, not with him. He folded the tag into his palm and looked at Emily. "There's a folder at my house," he said. "I want you to see it." Raymond drove himself home with Emily following behind him. He did not ask Karen to come. Inside the house, the kitchen still held the neat quiet of a place where one person lived carefully. A pill organizer sat beside the phone, a stack of unopened envelopes beside it. Emily noticed them, but Raymond did not stop there. He walked past the kitchen table to the hallway closet, reached to the top shelf, and pulled down a gray metal lockbox with a strip of masking tape across the lid. The tape was labeled in Raymond's handwriting. "When my time comes." Emily swallowed. "Grandpa, it's not sad," Raymond said. "It's organized." He set the box on the table and took a small key from his wallet. His hands were steady when he opened it. Inside were plain things: receipt copies, a folded cemetery map, an insurance card, a list of phone numbers, and a white index card sealed in a clear plastic sleeve. Raymond lifted the index card first. "My final resting place," he read quietly. "Maple Grove Cemetery. Lot 18B. No large service. No expensive fuss. Decision confirmed by Raymond Keller." Emily sat down across from him. "You wrote that?" "After my heart scare," he said, "because everybody kept using the word easier." He reached back into the box and found a small appointment card tucked behind the cemetery map. The card had Maple Grove's name printed across the top. Under it was a handwritten date from 6 months earlier. Emily leaned closer. "You went there this year?" Raymond nodded. "To update my phone number and make sure they still had my preference right." He turned the card over. On the back, someone from the cemetery had written, "Confirmed Lot 18B preference with Mr. Keller." For the first time since morning, Emily looked angry. "Grandpa," she said, "Mom said you changed your mind." Raymond stared at the appointment card. He had not raised his voice at the cemetery. He had not raised it in the car. But now the silence around him felt different, heavier. He slid the appointment card toward Emily. "If I confirmed it 6 months ago," he said, "then why did your mother tell them I didn't want it anymore?" Emily laid the appointment card beside the transfer tag on Raymond's kitchen table. The two dates did not belong in the same story. Raymond had confirmed Lot 18B 6 months ago. Karen had filed the transfer 3 weeks ago. Emily pulled the cemetery form from the folder Martha had copied for Raymond and placed it beneath the card. She wrote that the change reflected your current wishes, Emily said. Raymond looked at the words without touching the paper. My current wishes were in that box. Emily's eyes moved to the gray lockbox, then to the unopened envelopes beside the phone. For the first time, she seemed to understand how easy it had become for people to mistake quiet for confusion. She kept saying you didn't want us spending money, Emily said. I thought maybe you told her something different. I told her not to waste money on a big service, Raymond said. I never told her to move me. Emily stared at the appointment card again. A memory crossed her face before she spoke. You called me after that cemetery visit. Raymond looked up. I did? I was at work, Emily said. I couldn't answer, so you left a message. Raymond's expression tightened, not with fear, but with the strain of trying to remember what he had said and why it mattered now. Emily picked up her phone and opened the voicemail tab. There were too many messages. Work calls, pharmacy reminders, old birthday messages, a dozen things she had saved and forgotten. She scrolled fast, then slowed. Raymond sat across from her with the transfer tag folded in front of him. I remember you sounded calm, Emily said. Not upset. Just certain, she kept scrolling. A voicemail from 6 months earlier appeared near the bottom of the list, but the screen showed only the date, not the words. Emily's thumb hovered over it. Raymond looked at the appointment card, then at Karen's transfer form, then at the phone in Emily's hand. If that message says what I think it says, he said, then your mother didn't just misunderstand an old plan. Emily did not press play yet. She looked at him first, and the peacekeeper in her finally gave way to something firmer. Then we need to hear it, she said. Emily pressed play. For a second, there was only the soft hiss of an old voicemail. Then Raymond's voice filled the kitchen, thinner through the phone but unmistakably steady. Hi, sweetheart. It's Grandpa. I just left Maple Grove. Emily looked at him across the table. The voicemail continued. They still had the right lot on file. 18BI told them again, nothing fancy when the day comes. No big service, no money wasted. Raymond lowered his eyes. Just the place I picked. That's all I want. Seems silly maybe, but it matters to me. Emily's hand tightened around the phone. There was a small pause on the recording. Then Raymond gave a quiet laugh. Don't tell your mother I'm being stubborn. She'll try to organize my stubbornness, the message ended. Neither of them moved. The kitchen clock ticked over the sink. Outside, a delivery truck passed the house and disappeared down the block. Emily replayed the last part without asking. Just the place I picked. That's all I want. Raymond closed his eyes for one breath. That doesn't sound like a man changing his mind, Emily said. No, Raymond said. It doesn't. She set the phone beside the appointment card and Karen's transfer form. 3 ordinary things on one kitchen table, and together they said more than any argument had. Emily looked at the date on the voicemail. It's the same day as the cemetery appointment. Raymond nodded slowly. Then she had no reason to say I didn't want it. Emily's face changed. The anger was still there, but now it had confusion underneath it. Unless she thought wanting it didn't matter. Raymond looked toward the unopened envelopes by the phone. He could hear Karen's voice from the cemetery, tired and certain. Someone had to be practical. Someone had to handle things. Someone had to make it easier. But easier for whom? Emily picked up the transfer form again and stared at the line Karen had signed. She didn't just say the family discussed it, she said. She said it reflected your current wishes. Raymond reached across the table and folded the paper once, carefully, along its crease. Then we need to ask her what she meant by current. Karen came to Raymond's house 20 minutes after Emily called her. She walked in with her coat still on and stopped when she saw the papers laid out on the kitchen table. The transfer form, the appointment card, and Emily's phone sat in a straight line like they had been waiting for her. What is this? Karen asked. Raymond stood at the far side of the table. He did not raise his voice. I want to understand what you meant by current wishes. Karen's eyes flicked to Emily. You called me over here for an interrogation? No, Emily said. We called you because Grandpa confirmed Lot 18B 6 months ago. Karen looked at the appointment card, then away. Raymond nodded toward the phone, and he called Emily after. Emily pressed play. Raymond's recorded voice filled the room again, calm and plain. When it ended, Karen did not speak. The micro payoff came in her silence. For the first time all day, she could not say Raymond had been unclear. Karen took off her coat slowly and laid it over the chair by the wall. He was emotional then, too. Emily's face fell. Mom. Karen's voice cracked, but she kept going. You don't know what it's like to be the one everybody calls when something breaks. The bills, the notices, the cemetery forms, the insurance. He says one thing, then doesn't open mail for weeks. Raymond looked at the unopened envelopes near the phone, but he did not defend himself. Karen pointed toward them. I thought he would come around once it was handled. Raymond repeated the words quietly. Once it was handled, Karen swallowed. I thought I was preventing a fight later, she said. I thought cremation made more sense. I thought Emily wouldn't have to deal with all this when you're gone. Emily stared at her mother. So you knew he hadn't changed his mind. Karen's eyes filled, but she did not answer fast enough. That delay answered more than any confession could. Raymond picked up the transfer form and touched the line where Karen had signed that the change reflected his current wishes. You didn't misunderstand me, he said. You decided my answer was inconvenient. Karen looked down. Raymond folded the form once and slid it back into the folder. I'm going to ask someone what this means, he said. Not because I want to punish you, because I need to know whether my own choice still belongs to me. Alan Mercer did not invite them into a conference room. He met Raymond and Emily at a small table in the back of his office, beside a bookshelf full of old binders and estate guides with faded covers. Raymond placed the folder on the table himself. I don't want to fight, he said. I want to know what these papers mean. Alan nodded and put on his reading glasses. He reviewed the old pre-need contract first, then the second signature line, then Raymond's preference card. He took the most time with Karen's transfer form. Emily kept her phone face down beside the appointment card. Alan did not rush. Finally, he tapped the original contract with one finger. This arrangement was not written like a loose piece of property someone could simply move around for convenience. Raymond sat still. Alan looked at the second signature. This signature matters because it shows the original arrangement carried shared intent and specific placement. But more important than that, Mr. Keller, you are alive, competent, and you documented your own current preference. Emily let out a breath she had been holding. Raymond asked, So could Karen change it? Not the way this was done, Alan said. That was the micro payoff. No shouting, no threats. Just a plain answer Raymond had needed all day. Alan slid the transfer form back toward him. A family member can help with paperwork. They cannot replace the person whose decision it is, unless they have clear authority. I don't see that here. Raymond looked at the form but did not touch it. Emily turned her phone over. Does the voicemail matter? It supports the timeline, Alan said. It shows his stated wish was recent. The appointment card does the same. Raymond's jaw tightened. Then she signed something that wasn't true. Alan paused before answering. She signed something the cemetery relied on. Whether she called it practical or helpful, the record needs to be corrected. Raymond looked toward the window. Cars moved past on the street outside. Ordinary people heading home with ordinary errands. His own errand had turned into a question he never thought he would have to ask. Alan gathered the papers into a neat stack. Maple Grove should place the transfer on hold or reverse it pending proper authorization. Emily looked at Raymond. Do you want me to call Mom? Raymond picked up the folded transfer tag from his pocket and smoothed it flat on the table. No, he said. I want everyone to meet me back where this started. Maple Grove looked different when Raymond came back. The same walkway led past the office. The same maple tree leaned over Evelyn's stone. But this time, Raymond carried his folding chair himself, with the transfer tag tucked in his shirt pocket instead of tied to the leg. Karen was already there, standing beside Emily near Lot 18B. She looked smaller without the office counter between them. Martha Bell came out a few minutes later with a cemetery folder held flat against her chest. She did not smile, but her face had lost the uncertainty Raymond had seen that morning. "I received Mr. Mercer's confirmation," she said. "The transfer has been placed on hold pending correction." Raymond nodded once. Karen looked at the ground. "So it stopped?" "For now," Martha said carefully. "And based on the original contract and Mr. Keller's current preference documentation, the cemetery cannot treat the transfer as valid without his proper consent. That was the micro payoff. The plot was not gone." Raymond unfolded his chair slowly and set it beside the empty space where the wrong marker had been. The temporary marker was no longer there. He sat down. No one spoke for a moment. Karen wiped her palms against the sides of her coat. "Dad, I didn't think it would become all this." Raymond looked up at her. "That's the part I keep hearing." She frowned. "What part? That you didn't think?" Karen's face tightened, but Raymond lifted one hand before she could defend herself. "I don't mean you didn't work," he said. "I know you did. Bills, calls, forms, your mother's appointments, mine too." Karen's eyes filled then, but she held herself still. Raymond took the folded transfer tag from his pocket and opened it on his knee. "But somewhere in all that handling," he said, "you stopped asking where helping ended and replacing me began." Emily looked away, blinking hard. Karen's voice dropped. "I was scared." "I believe you," Raymond said. "I saw the notices. I saw the bills. I thought if I made the decision, nobody else would have to carry it later." Raymond nodded slowly. "You made it easier by removing me from my own decision." The words stayed in the air. Martha held the folder tighter, as if even the records understood their place was not to punish, but to witness. Emily stepped closer to her mother. "Grandpa wasn't asking for something expensive. He was asking us to listen." Karen covered her mouth with one hand. For the first time, she looked at the empty plot instead of the paperwork. Then she looked back at Raymond sitting in the chair she had allowed to be tagged and moved aside. "What do you want me to do now?" she asked. Raymond rested his hand on the arm of the folding chair. He did not answer right away. Raymond looked at Karen for a long moment before he answered. "I want you to stop deciding for me before you talk to me," he said. "You can help me. I may need that." "But you can't become my voice," Karen nodded. "But it took effort." "I thought being the responsible one meant getting ahead of the hard things," she said. "I didn't see what I was taking from you." Raymond did not say it was all right. He only said, "Now you see it." Martha opened the cemetery folder and laid the restored preference card on the flat top of the nearby stone border. The paper looked ordinary in the afternoon light, but everyone standing there understood what it meant. Raymond took the pen Martha offered him. His hand paused over the line for his signature. Not because he was uncertain, but because, for the first time that day, nobody was rushing him. Emily stood beside him quietly. Karen stepped back, then stopped herself. "Dad," she said, "may I stand here?" Raymond looked up at her. After a moment, he nodded. Karen came closer, not to guide his hand, not to explain the form, not to manage the moment. She just stood there while he signed his own name. Martha clipped the card into the folder. "I'll make sure Emily receives a copy," she said. Raymond looked at Karen. "You'll get one too." "But copies are not permission." Karen gave a small, painful smile. "I understand." Emily wiped her cheek with her sleeve and let out a breath that almost became a laugh. "Grandpa, you really do label everything." Raymond glanced at the folder, then at the chair beneath him. "Somebody has to make it easy for people to listen." That was the closest thing to forgiveness he could offer that day, and Karen seemed to understand not to ask for more. She bent down and untied the old transfer tag from where Raymond had tucked it through the chair strap. Then she folded it once, twice, and handed it to him. Raymond looked at it, then gave it back. "You can throw that away." Karen walked to the small trash bin near the cemetery office and dropped the tag inside. When she returned, she did not speak. She stood beside Emily, both of them facing the quiet grass of Lot 18B. Raymond sat in his folding chair under the maple tree, the restored cemetery folder resting in Martha's arms behind him. The empty space beside Evelyn's stone was only grass again, but this time, it was his choice.